The mist lay low over the Louisiana fields that morning, thick, white, and unmoving. It clung to the earth like a burial shroud, and when the scream tore through it, the sound did not carry like ordinary fear. It carried confusion. Old Jeremiah Pike had risen before dawn, as he had done every morning for nearly 50 years. His back was bent from labor, his hands thick with calluses, his breath steady with routine. He carried a wooden bucket filled from the well, the water reflecting the faintest glow of coming light. He walked the same narrow path toward Cabin 7, except Cabin 7 was not there. Jeremiah stopped. The bucket slipped from his fingers and struck the dirt with a hollow crack. Water spilled across his bare feet. He blinked once, twice, rubbed his eyes. The structure, a solid cypress cabin that had stood for decades, was gone. Not burned, not collapsed, not damaged. Gone. In its place lay only a clean rectangular stone foundation, smooth, exposed, and strangely immaculate. No splintered wood, no scattered nails, no ash, no debris. The grass beyond the foundation still held morning dew, untouched. Jeremiah's scream broke the dawn. Within minutes, the quarters filled with bewildered faces. Men and women circled the empty space in stunned silence, as if expecting the cabin to reappear if they looked long enough. It was as though the earth itself had swallowed it whole, then carefully erased the evidence. The plantation was called Red Hollow Estate, deep in Bayou country. It was April of 1865. The war was ending. Richmond had fallen. Lee had surrendered. Freedom hovered in the air, close enough to taste, but not yet real. On Red Hollow, nothing had changed. The overseer, Malcolm Hargrove, stormed from his house clutching a shotgun, his nightshirt flapping in the morning chill. "What in God's name?" Then he saw it. He stopped mid-stride. The empty rectangle. The crowd, the silence. He pushed forward, boots crunching over gravel, and stared at the exposed stone foundation. He knelt, ran his fingers over the surface. Clean, too clean. He sniffed the air. No smoke, no rot, no sign of violence, just damp earth and magnolia. The occupants of Cabin 7 were gone as well. Elias Carter, carpenter, Miriam Carter, healer, Naomi, their sharp-eyed daughter, young Samuel, barely 11, Jonah and Esther, kin by fate, not blood, all vanished. Hargrove's authority relied on certainty. This was not certainty. This was chaos. Cabin 7 had stood slightly apart from the others, near the western tree line. It had been sturdier than most, built decades earlier by skilled hands. Cypress logs notched and fitted tight, mortared riverstone foundation, iron nails hammered deep. It was not a flimsy shack. It was a structure of weight and permanence, and it had disappeared without disturbing a single blade of grass. Sheriff Nathaniel Broome arrived by mid-morning. A slow, deliberate man in his late 50s, known for patience and logic. He studied the site carefully, measured the foundation, examined the surrounding soil, looked for wagon ruts, drag marks, footprints. There were none. Bloodhounds were brought in. The dogs circled once, twice, then sat down confused. No scent. It was as though the cabin and its inhabitants had never existed.
But disappearances like this do not begin in a single night. They begin in whispers. Months earlier, small irregularities had surfaced. A pry bar misplaced, a coil of rope borrowed and returned, fresh sawdust near the tree line, then gone by morning. Young Samuel had spoken of tapping sounds at night, soft, rhythmic, then silence. Naomi had noticed her father studying the cabin walls longer than usual, measuring beams with his eyes. Jonah had been seen hauling something heavy toward the woods after dark, though nothing visible remained by morning. Hargrove increased patrols, but he looked for escapees. He never considered the possibility of disappearance by design. Elias Carter understood structures, how they fit together, how they could come apart. Freedom was coming, but slowly, and slow freedom meant risk. Families were still being sold, violence still ruled, waiting was dangerous. So Cabin 7 would not be abandoned, it would be erased. The plan took weeks. Tools were borrowed under cover of darkness and returned before dawn. Elias crafted padded mallets to dull sound. Iron nails were heated gently before removal, preventing the shriek of metal under tension. The shingles were removed first, one at a time, passed down silently, carried deep into the woods, covered with brush. Then the walls, each cypress log lifted with lever systems fashioned from branches. Ropes looped over tree limbs to ease weight, dragged along carefully chosen paths layered with pine needles. Naomi and Esther swept every trace behind them. Samuel stood watch. Even Miriam played her part, maintaining normalcy, calming suspicion. Each night, a little more of the cabin vanished. Each day, it stood whole again until the final week. By then, only skeletal framing remained, then floorboards, then beams. The last night was moonless. The final supports were removed. The remaining fragments were sunk in swamp water, weighted with stone. At dawn, the ground was smoothed, the foundation wiped clean. Cabin 7 was no more, and neither was the Carter family.
Sheriff Broom remained for days. He questioned everyone. No one spoke. Faces were fearful, but beneath fear lay something else. Resolve. Hargrove grew unhinged. He searched the woods obsessively, accused others, drank heavily. He could not accept the truth. Control had slipped through his fingers. Broom finally filed the case as unsolved. He would later admit it was the only mystery that defeated him entirely. The story spread. Plantation owners whispered of witchcraft. Some spoke of abolitionist trickery, others of divine intervention. But among the enslaved, and later among freed communities, the story transformed. It became a symbol. If a cabin could vanish, perhaps chains could too. Years later, in Chicago, a master carpenter named Elias Carter gained quiet respect for his rare talent, dismantling old buildings without damaging the timber. In New Orleans, a healer named Miriam ran an herbal shop, guiding others toward resilience. In St. Louis, a teacher named Naomi spoke often of courage and collective strength. And along northern routes, a guide named Samuel helped families move silently through the night. None ever spoke of Red Hollow Estate, but those who listened closely sometimes heard fragments, advice about leaving no trace, about working together, about patience. Red Hollow eventually fell into ruin. The fields changed hands. The main house decayed. But the stone foundation of Cabin 7 remained, overgrown with moss, silent, a perfect rectangle carved into memory. Historians later debated the event. Was it exaggerated? Misreported? Impossible? Yet records confirmed it. A solid structure had stood there for decades. Then it was gone, without fire, without flood, without evidence. What truly happened? A miracle? A masterwork of engineering? An underground railroad operation beyond its time? Or something more extraordinary? A family refusing to wait for freedom. The truth may never be written in official ledgers, but the foundation still rests in Louisiana soil, a reminder that sometimes the greatest acts of rebellion leave no wreckage, only absence. And sometimes absence speaks louder than any scream.